Welcome to the Morning Brief right here on Channels Television. We're broadcasting live from our global headquarters in the nation's commercial nerve center, Lagos. I'm Jeffrey Uzoma. I hope you had a beautiful yesterday because today, I believe it's going to be better. Guys, good morning.
Good morning, Bukola.
Kari, why are you waiting for me? Go ahead, Kari.
Because I just want to
You first.
I want that uplifting. I want that uplifting
zone.
No, really, Bukola, you have to do this.
I have to do this, right?
I have a void now, waiting to be filled by those words.
So let's give you a cue. 3, 2, 1.
Action. Okay, as you open your eyes, make the sunrise jealous this morning because you're beautiful. Good morning and welcome. It's a better morning just because you choose to do you. Welcome to the Morning Brief on Channels Television. I am Bukola Koka.
Why?
Did that help?
The sunrise crew is coming for you. Make the sunrise jealous. Chamberlain,
don't worry, they'll be happy.
Did you hear that?
It's for them as well.
Of course, she means the sunrise, not the sun. You know what? I'm Kayode Okikili. Welcome to the show this morning. What's going on?
What's happening, guys?
A lot is going on, of course. We still have things that are biting the people of our country in terms of the economy and all of that. But I was just thinking the other day, besides all of this, what would you do if you have access to privileges or privilege and power? It's a question I ask myself, and I think it's a question everybody should introspect on. Because I heard a preacher say one time, the true measure of a man, you don't know a man until he has money. So I want to put it around influence. Whatever is going on now in terms of people in power, whether it's the president or the governors or the senators, or any public officials or CEOs of banks or CEOs of organizations, now they have access to power or privilege. What they are doing is exactly who they are. There's no other way to explain it. So for those people who don't have access to privileges and power, say, oh, if I get here tomorrow, if I do this, if you have access to power, what exactly would you do with it? It tells you who you really are. I was just thinking about that.
Yeah, true, Jeffrey. And there are two other things that can be added to that list. But for the purpose of this conversation, maybe we should just stick with power. Okay. In addition, money as well.
Everything inside.
Yeah. There's a third one. But let's leave that one.
Because I wanted to add women.
It's instructive, yeah, because then the last 9 months has been a test of the commitment of those in power to the social contract. There are two parties to that contract: the leaders and the led. When they have committed themselves to the provision of security, equitable distribution of economic resources, and all the other benefits and that mix that we choose to call the dividends of democracy, and the people are not seeing it yet, then one party is breaching the social contract. So it's something for, elected public officials and appointed to reflect on at this point in time. We're 9 months down already. Kadi.
I have a somewhat a different view to this. I think and believe that everyone has a measure of influence already, a measure of power, no matter how small. And we're actually exercising it in our own way. You may be a minimum wage earner, but your father, for example, or your mother, even if you don't have influence over people, no matter how small, you have influence over yourself. And that's why I ask myself a lot of times, even if you don't get all of that money, you don't get all of that influence in court, what are you doing with the one you have right now? There's a principle to that. If you're faithful in little, then you naturally be faithful in the big one. So when you're on that queue, or when you're approaching that queue, what are you doing? When you're interfacing with people, are you trying to cheat them or just trying to do good business? I think every one of us has a measure of influence. You don't have to be the president or the governor to have influence.
Yeah, it corroborates what we're saying, because what you do with that little is not what you would do when you have the big ones, whether it's money or power or any of those things. So that little test is a time for you to sit down and introspect. Okay, what am I doing with this as a husband, as a wife, as whatever in that,
as a head of department,
whatever small space you find yourself.
Some people say that it is when you get that big influence that your real character will show. But I'm of the opinion that your character is actually showing in some way with the little influence you have, not necessarily when you get the big one.
I guess they're saying that whatever small was going on is now going to be amplified. If you're a bad person,
with A little.
Well, because there are two types of humility I learned. There's circumstantial humility, the one that you don't have a reason, but you don't have a choice. You have to be humble. You don't have money, you don't have... I'm not just saying money now, I'm just using money as an example. Circumstantial humility. Life has forced you to be humble. And then there's another humility, which is a bigger side of humility, which is now you have everything to be proud about, or to be pompous or arrogant about, and choose to stay humble. Now, humility is relative. It's not being quiet that makes you humble. There's a lot of layers to it. But hey, that's not all we're talking about today. We just want to check ourselves as a country, because a lot is going on, and we can blame this person, blame that person. But when you have power in your hands, what would you do? Well, let's tell you what we have for you on the program today. The search for answers for Nigeria's challenges, or economic challenges, continues on the show today. Are the policy measures put in place by the government to, revive the economy and douse inflationary pressure working at all? Is a call for patience valid, or citizens simply are tired of perceived insufficient action to make life better for them? The experts will have the answer on the show today.
And we need more answers, particularly as we pursue a solution to the nagging economic crisis. The federal government had cause to block online crypto exchange platforms, Binance and the others, to avert what it considers continuous manipulation of the forex market and illicit movement of funds. Is it an overkill or the other way around? Find out later on the program.
Plus, well, we continue to beam our spotlight on some of the custodians of Africa's biggest movie industry, with a focus on one of its versatile and bright talents, who even brings a multicultural angle to things, featured in several movies. We examine how she navigates Nollywood when the lights are on or turned off, particularly as a woman. So stay with us.
That's all we'll be talking about today. Share your thoughts with us. CTV Morning Brief on X and on WhatsApp. We'll bring that number on your screen pretty soon. Don't call that number, please. Just send your messages. Yes, that's it. I always call it a magic number. But you can only send messages and send your videos. When we verify them as much as possible, we will amplify your voice. Hey, the show is a community show where we engage with you, you engage with us, and together we engage with ourselves. So that's exactly the outlook for today. I hope you'll be staying with us so that we have a great 2 hours right here on the Morning Brief, which starts right now. On the brief this morning, it was a night laced with deep emotions for the banking community, who converged on Lagos Island to honor the life of late banker and co-founder of Access Holdings, Herbert Wigwe, who died in a plane crash with his wife, son, and the former NGX boss in the United States. Taking turns, top bankers, the political class, captains of industry, associates, colleagues, friends, classmates, and more, either physically or via message shared, moving tributes in a night tagged Herbert Wigwe, celebrating professional excellence. Some of those who delivered eulogy include the president, former president and leaders, AFDB president, CBN governor, governors of Lagos and Ogun State. Also present at the event were also the former emir of Kano, Sanusi Lamido, chairman and vice chairman of Channels Media Group, Dr. John and Dr. Shala Momo, among others.
I met Herbert November 1991. We were both in the corporate bank. Very quickly, Herbert earned our respect. Herbert was one of the cleverest people in Guarantee Trust Bank. He was a credit analyst. But that's not what got him his respect, because we were all good analysts. But Herbert had what we all didn't have. He had the power to chase accounts, network, and deliver things that we all couldn't.
Herbert was a visionary role model, in fortitude, and a perfectionist who gave so much of himself. Is no longer here with us, but his transformative strides are seen all over our economic landscape and even in the heart of social milieu in Nigeria and the rest of the world.
As we come to terms with this loss, it is important that we celebrate the life of a man who dedicated himself to excellence and to service. Our hearts are heavy, and we just have to try to encourage ourselves with the wonderful life and legacy he has. Herbert Wigwe was my friend. He was my younger brother. He was my aburo. And like all of us here, I feel deeply pained at his passing.
Harvard was one of the very first people that supported my ambition generously. And I said to him, brother, I'm not going there to disappoint you. I will leave, I will work, and I will come back to represent the friendship that we all have together. And he said, count me in. I will give you all the support that you require. Him and my other brother, Iboje, had given me the support from the very first day as the governor of the state.
He was extremely hardworking. He was daring. He was bold. He was diligent. He was intentional. He was consistent. He was compassionate. He was caring. He was reliable. He was dependable. Herbert was loyal to his friends. He was intelligent from every single account we've had this evening. Extremely cerebral. Herbert was way ahead of his time.
It was indeed a very difficult night for a lot of people, but they summoned the courage to be able to share their thoughts on the life and time of that great banker. Our prayers and our thoughts are with the family. Let's move on now. Some succor may be on the way for citizens following the federal government's decision to commence the distribution of grains nationwide. The distribution of the 42,000 metric tons of grains as approved by the president is expected to begin this week across the 36 states. In a post on X, the Minister of Agriculture, Senator Abubakar Kyari, says the initiative is to cushion the effect of the hardship occasioned by the economic policy of the government that has led to hunger protests in parts of the country. FCT Minister says looting a warehouse spearheaded by criminals and before that announcement by the federal government, the Minister of State for the FCT believes those who invaded and looted the warehouse belonging to the FCT Department of Agriculture and Rural Development on 2 days ago were not driven by hunger. Mrs. Maria Mahmood maintains that hoodlums with criminal intent were responsible and did cut away with some food, machineries and destroyed property, as she promises that they will be dealt with after 15 suspects were apprehended.
We are here due to the unfortunate incident that happened early hours of our week today, where hoodlums attacked this very warehouse and packed everything that's here, including the grains, not only the food items that are here, including the roofings, windows, and even the gates of this space and offices were all attacked. And you can see the level of damage. There is nothing that is left here, including machineries that are used for processing of these grains. Due to the nature of the situation in the country, His Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, gave us a mandate to distribute palliatives to all the area councils in FCT. And we were there. We did distribution about twice, and then about to do the third one where these trucks were here to offload these food items, and then they were attacked. Some were even injured. This is really a bad situation, and it's not something that we take it lightly. All those that are involved must be brought to book. When you have the warehouses, they are here just for you to keep what you have before you make the necessary arrangement. Not because you want to keep food away from the people. This food is for them. Nobody is going to take it away from them. But it has to be done in an according manner. But the way this thing happened actually is beyond hunger. This is a criminal act.
As the internal crisis within the All Progressives Congress in Benue State seemed far from abating, the executive of the party are demanding accountability from the governor, Hyacinth Alia. According to them, the governor should transparently utilize the security votes to protect the lives and property of the people instead of making what they consider political capital from herdsmen attacks as front to stifle political activities of the party road onto power. Those calls came from the state chairman of the party and others during an expanded stakeholders meeting held in Makodi at the residence of the SGF, Senator George Akume.
I told His Excellency this one to his face. There is only one leader in this state. You cannot hide behind the so-called I am the governor and in APC governors are leaders.
You know what a state capital is? If you say that the state capital is no longer safe, you're apparently saying that the activity of the whole state should be closed down completely. That's what you are saying.
To the court where a former governor of Anambra State, Willie Obiano, is challenging the jurisdiction of the Federal High Court, Abuja, to hear the alleged fraud preferred against him by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. The EFCC had on January 24 arraigned the former governor 9 charges bordering on alleged money laundering to the tune of 4 billion naira. At the day's proceedings, the counsel to the EFCC, Sylvana Steher, told the court he was ready for the commencement of trial and had 3 witnesses to present in court. But counsel for the defendant, Onyechi Ekpeazu, told the courts that he had filed a motion challenging the jurisdiction of the court to hear the matter. The trial judge, Justice Ian Kwo, subsequently adjourned the matter to March 7, 2024 for continuation of trial. Now, the National Broadcasting Commission says a transparent process in its operation is in the works to positively influence how stakeholders see the commission. The Director General of the Commission, Mr. Charles Ibubu, made the promise during his visit to the chairman of Channels Media Group, Dr. John Momo, at our global headquarters here in Lagos. He affirms that certain changes in the code will be effected to enable a better business environment.
There are 2 sides to a coin. So on one hand, there's a perception that NBC has been overreaching in the application of sanctions. We've not. It's been said that we did not follow due process and all of that. And basically, the takeaway from it is that it has been an arbitrary process. Now, part of my training as a lawyer is the fact that we would definitely put together a transparent process. I don't want to get into particular details. It's still in process, but I can assure you there's going to be a change in that perception. It's going to be transparent, so much so people will be allowed to speak, they'll be allowed to defend themselves. The issues will be analyzed based on the code. We're going to have a code review where all inputs will be taken in, and that would address that perception. Now, on the other side of it, it's sort of strange. You have a policeman who cannot even issue a fine, if you agree with me. So, but we believe the way to go first is to address the perception. Of course, the case is in court, so I can't talk so much about it and the legality or otherwise. I am not allowed the sub judice, but we're going to also try to bring a change to that judgment. Part of what we're going to open a desk for in the NBC is basically to listen. So complaints shouldn't be restricted to complaints against broadcast. It should be how to facilitate an enabling industry, basically, that allows people to thrive, businesses to thrive. So if it needs us to go have a meeting with the customs, if it needs us to have a meeting with any government agency, so much so that we're seen to drive that ease of doing business, where stakeholders can bring up an issue to us, we take it up as a responsibility to engage with the relevant industry. You know, the same way you want to register a business with CAC and they have to write to us when it has to do with media, you know, and we have to give a confirmation of sorts. the same thing we're going to enable across board to engage businesses and to have, we're basically going to be there to assist businesses in a nutshell.
And now talking business, importers in the country may be getting some relief as the central bank slashes the exchange rate for computing customs duties at the port by 5.3%. Effective March the 4th, which was yesterday, the customs FX duty rate had dropped from 1,630 naira 50 kobo to $1 to 1,544 naira 8 kobo for clearing goods from the port. Importers are experiencing a lull at the port, with many citing unfavorable business conditions due to high import duties and fluctuating FX rates for duty calculations. Outside our shores, efforts by individual states to disqualify Donald Trump from running for president using an anti-insurrection constitutional clause has been struck down by the U.S. Supreme Court in a unanimous ruling in specifically targeting Colorado. It also overrides challenges brought in other states. Colorado had banned Mr. Trump from its Republican primary, arguing it incited the 2021 Capitol riot. The court ruled that only Congress, rather than the states, and had the power to make such decisions, which now clears the way for Mr. Trump to compete in the Colorado primary scheduled for today. And talking sports, Flying Eagles head coach Issa Ladan Bosso has picked 20 players for the men's football event at the 13th African Games taking place in Ghana. The team includes 3 goalkeepers, 6 defenders, 5 midfielders, and 6 strikers. The Flying Eagles, who were runners-up in the last edition in Rabat, Morocco, will contend with Uganda, South Sudan, Senegal, and Tunisia in Group B of the men's football event starting on Thursday. And those are the stories we've been tracking for you just between Caller joins me now to tell me exactly what's been going on.
Here's your technology.
Yes, my technology is here as always. I don't know what stood out for you, but I don't know whether we'll have much time for that. But we have a lot of things people are saying.
Jeffrey, it was indeed the night of tributes for the late banker and entrepreneur. It was a really sad event for me. I never met him before, but you know, it's one of the high points, one of the tragedies that our nation has had to go through this year. And I almost shed tears watching all of the tributes yesterday. So I'd rather not reflect on any other thing. But with our prayers are with the family, the Wigwe family. May God strengthen them at this time.
Yeah, it was quite difficult. Everybody who saw that, it was difficult. But as we say, our thoughts and our prayers and our love with the Wigwe family at this very, very challenging time. Okola, what are people saying on X?
Quite a lot, starting with war-torn Ukraine. I believe that's our first. Donating food to Nigeria, which is officially at peace, is a national disgrace. That's one of the first few views from national presidential candidate of the Labour Party. Maybe I should take that again. War-torn Ukraine, donating food to Nigeria, which is officially at peace, is national disgrace, says P2B.
Okay, this person is talking about it's the same issue about the grains from Ukraine. If our vast lands are safe, this is T-Talk. If our vast lands are safe for agriculture and farmers are free from bandit attacks, we should be the ones donating grains to Ukraine. We all know Ukraine is looking for friends with donation, but we don't need it. BAT will feed the nation.
And we're waiting for that. This next one is from Olaki, and Olaki says, the war in Ukraine left many dead. Therefore, having enough excess food in circulation without appropriate human beings to consume them. There's nothing bad in sharing with countries like Nigeria, whose citizens are in serious need due to a temporary hunger. That's an interesting way to look at it, Jeffrey.
Ayoda says, this is from Ayoda known as Fortune Mikano, Fortune_Mikano on X. Despite the war with Ukraine, the Ukrainian food industry wants to have closer relationship with Nigeria. And we're very thankful to you that your country is ready to develop these relationships. The initiative is a bilateral thing, not that Nigeria begged for it. Politics outside, it's okay. Okay, that's all we can take as far as this grain issues from Ukraine is concerned. Bukola.
The next one is on the economic policy from the Apex Bank, and the topic is CBN slashes customs FX duty rate by 5.3% as Naira stabilizes. So you take the first one, Jeffrey.
As Naira really stabilized, that's ambitious. Okay. Salim Umar, PhD, says, let all hands be on deck to salvage the economy. The CBN is working around the clock to ensure our Naira is stable. So,
Jeffrey, when the Naira makes those very insignificant gains, for instance, it was 1,600 and it comes to 1,500, the truth of the matter is there really isn't any significant impact on the prices of commodities, back when you go into the hinterland where the national economy really is supposed to work for the people. So there are no gains, really. It just supports what we say in Nigeria, that what goes up never really comes down.
It's debatable. It's supposed to, because these duties affect the cost eventually, because there's something they call cost of sales. So you factor in all of this, what you pay at the port, transportation, all of this. We say it in Nigeria, all of this together.
Well, I'm the one going to the market, Jeffrey. so I'll tell you.
It depends on what you're buying anyway. So Sunday Ikidero says, it's still on the high side. Costs on domestic food items are too expensive. Government needs to reduce it to 1,000 to $1. That person is talking like Bukola exactly. Like, we need a total shift.
Well, this one is coming from Obioha Uchenna, and they say the reduction is still not enough. However, it's a welcome development.
Yeah, okay. This is coming from Douglas Onyema. Slash it by 30%. Remove FX duty rate on imported food. That's coming from Okechukwu.
Okay, let's go to the next. Yeah, let's go to the next subject matter now, which was the night of tributes for the late banker Herbert Wigwe. And the first one, the talking point would be Aliko Dangote, that's the captain of industry, in tears while paying his tribute to Herbert Wigwe. The first view is from Credo, and Credo says, seeing Dangote cry was proof that we all are human. There are things you can't trade with money, and that's genuine friendship and love.
Yeah,
RIP to Herbert Wigwe and family.
It wasn't just Dangote that cried. I know the GT Bank CEO cried, Dangote cried, his best friend and partner, Ike, cried. A couple of other people just were trying to hold back emotion. It was because all of a sudden it becomes difficult to accept that this is a reality. It was difficult. This is from Lozy Father, is hashtag thank you Ngolo. Says, it's not easy for a man like this to publicly shed tears. Imagine the aged parents and the kids left behind. May God repose his soul and make his journey smooth.
And Amen. This one is from Lorex. Lorex says, Herbert Wigwe must have been a really good business associate and friend to have gotten these emotional eulogies. Cameras off, and some of these business tycoons would have been weeping like babies.
Yeah, it was difficult for a lot of people, even people who don't know him, people who never met him. It was quite difficult for everybody to just see he wasn't sick and all of that, life just goes. And why it was more difficult was the fact that Herbert didn't die alone. He died with his wife and his first son. And it was difficult. It was just, it's not something to try to think about. It's just to allow it go.
It's a good time for us to reflect on, our contributions while we're here on earth. And it tells us that it doesn't matter the number of years that we, are privileged to live, but what we put into those number of years. So we still have opportunities to make an impact.
All right, so that's what we've been tracking on X, as well as we'll take your WhatsApp messages later on, but we'll switch gears now. I will bring you that very conversation you want us to talk about. Join us again. We'll be right back. Welcome back. It's now to shift gears. Let's talk about the economy. It's an ongoing conversation because, hey, things are not there where we want it to be. And naturally, when we are trying to find answers, we look for those who have the answers. At least to the best of their knowledge, they provide that expert opinion on what to do and how to go about the situation. It's a conversation that I've been having for as long as I can remember. from last year all the way to this year, and we will not stop until we find a solution to these nagging economic issues. We've been joined in the program via Zoom by a senior economist at the SPM Professionals and fellow International Management Consultant Board in the United States, as well as a fellow Institute of Economists in Nigeria, Mr. Paul Alaje. Mr. Alaje, thank you so much, as always, for coming through whenever we have to call you. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you so very much for having me.
Let's begin with what's been happening with the duties at the ports. About 5% reduction from the central bank. I know that the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, DG, was here, and one of the things he lamented about was that particular duty issue. So, Bukola was saying that how much of a needle has this really moved? From an economist's perspective, has it moved anything, or more needs to be done?
Yeah, thank you once again. I must say that reducing it by 5% is not sufficient. I am currently in one of the major markets in Nigeria within the South region, that is in Port Harcourt. And I can tell you that a steel of iron pool that we pulled in 2017, since we've been monitoring the price of steel, I can give you the dimension. It's about 30 inches pole. The thickness is 16 mm. The length is 12 meters. We have been checking prices over the years, and the price as at 2017 was 500,000 naira to one pole. Today, it is 6 million naira. 6 million naira. This pole is not produced in Nigeria, it is imported. And this is among many other different types of steel, including angle iron, 50 by 50 by 4 mm, which currently sold for 22,000. It used to be 4,500 just 3 years ago. So the prices have already been messed up. And that is why some persons even feel that the inflation number shared in Nigeria may not be correct. Even though inflation is not just about this, there are a few other items, even commodity item I can share with you what has happened to them between December, January, and now. Prices have continued to surge. So one of the things that cause prices to increase, of course, is import duty. So answering your question directly, reducing it by 5% is not sufficient. What we first need to come to terms with is we cannot be fluctuating import duty. It does not, it brings that difficulty for importers. And I mean those who are importing goods that will be used. For instance, if somebody imports irons or import poles, they are not using it for themselves. That's what we use in construction sites, in building factories. So fluctuating the rates bring high level of uncertainty to the purchase or to the consumer or the factories that will be using this eventually. It's important for central bank to let the economy understand at what point are you trying to target 1,300, which of course was given to BDC. That is what I was expecting the import duty to be. If you are giving BDC 1,300 on one hand, in the same market, you now give 1,500 or 1,600 to customs. It does not add up. I'm still trying to look for an economic explanation to the decision. If you are giving BDC 1,300, the knowledge, when we talk about policy convergence, you are giving BDC, who of course now operate under the central bank, you cannot be given fiscal authority at 1,500 or 1,600. Are you trying to discourage import? If you are discouraging import, one condition before you achieve the goal is that we must have industry sectors that can produce the same. Then when you raise import duty, Nigeria will fall back to what is produced at home. So the question is, where can we buy some of those things in Nigeria? They are just not there. So I appreciate the effort of the Apex Bank Monetary Policy Committee and so on and so forth, but we cannot run away from the supply side. The argument over the years and in more recent months, in the last 9 months, since we made that policy overdose of giving a patient who is supposed to take medication, 1 tablet in the morning, 1 tablet in the afternoon, 1 tablet in the evening for 7 days. But because we felt, oh, this patient has been healed for a while, in the last 8 years, he has been healed. let's combine all these tablets and ask the patient to swallow at once. So we gave the patient 21 tablets in the name of subsidy removal, in the name of devaluation. At the same time, what do you think will happen to the kidney of the economy? That is why we are seeing these price changes. And you could hear a price in the morning, in the evening is something else. And in even attacking that, we have seen a 400 basis point jump in NPR, which I think is taking that decision has a lot of implication in the economy. So the reduction is okay, but I can tell you that the central bank, we need to match that with an earlier decision rate it has given to the BDC of 1,300. You see, if we don't do this, the importers will be speculating, saying that central bank is still adjusting. We don't know what the rate will be. Some of the items we have now, the rate at which they are selling was when dollar was 1,800. Everybody increased their price. It's now back to 1,540. But they are not sure if the rate will not go up again. So stability is when you target something and you want to ensure that it is the rate across board. Everybody will know that central bank is targeting it and we can achieve it all together. And as Nigerians, as researchers, we all work together to achieve that stability in our economy, because if we don't, it's going to hurt all of us together.
I'd like us to speak to what the CBN has done further, and I'm talking about the MPR and the rest. There's been diverse opinions. I think the governor of Edo State just recently saying that, well, it was a bit too much. Not the term was even a bit too much. It was not the right action to take. Yes, we understand the situation, but he says that interest rates are already very high, and jacking up the interest rates clearly will not allow small borrowers, small businesses access to credit at a price to help them grow their businesses. So it's quite interesting, because I know before that meeting, there was a call for the CBN to tighten, to mop up excess liquidity, but there was also the angle of, where is this liquidity in the first place that we're trying to mop up? So whichever way the CBN went, it was always going to be the wrong decision for some people. But how do you see this, particularly for those who have small businesses, those who are really impacted by this situation? What are the options available for government, and I'm talking monetary and fiscal, to maybe ease their situation further?
Well, there are options for government. Whether government has taken the option is another kettle of fish too. There are economists, and especially what I've heard in recent time and what I've observed in the public space and in the media space is that government seems to have this continuous romance with classical economics, those who want to have textbook manifestation, that when you raise interest rate, which is exactly what central bank has done, textbook teaches, and I mean the intermediate level of knowledge in economics. It's important I add that to it, that when you raise interest rate, within a short period of time, inflation will come down. My concern here is that we have done that over the years. Governor Emefiele continue to increase interest rate to above 18%, rather than price coming down, it keeps going up. What is the implication? As we are mopping more from the economy because we thought it's money supply, one of the reasons why we even have the policy we had regarding Naira, not denomination, we have regarding Naira, that's introducing new Naira notes so that people can bring their money to the gold. The question is, has that reduced inflation? The answer is no. I'll be very sincere with you. Raising MPR on 400 basis points is the first time in the history of Central Bank of Nigeria. So that policy itself will not go without its implication. The first implication is that the policy is anti-growth. When you raise your MPR like that, it will have implication on your gross domestic product growth rate. So the GDP growth rate will surely be hampered by this policy. Number two, I will tell you the benefit of the policies too, because maybe I should start with the benefit before I go to the deep concerns that this policy has. The first benefit of this policy central bank is trying to target is using inflation targeting method. That is, we have written in the budget that we want to achieve 21% inflation rate, which already is an high inflation rate. 21% is even high inflation rate. Frozen to 30%, you're already in hyperinflation rate. So we are supposed to be having 6 to 9%, but central bank is targeting 21% and says, if we jack up interest rate, we will achieve this. And it is possible too. Central bank is looking at having foreign direct investors come into Nigeria. But you now ask for what interest? Because when investors come, they are looking at, and I must say that it is not, the target is not to bring in real investor. The target is to bring in portfolio investor. So if you bring a portfolio investor, of course, which we all know that with the slightest challenge with the economy, it is easier for them to lead the country. And this is what we have seen, not just with President Tinubu, President Buhari, President Jonathan, from President Obasanjo to date. Anytime there is slight crisis with the economy, portfolio investor will always lead. So if you are targeting the same to come, what rate will we give them? Are we going to give them our treasury bill or bond at nearly 30%? The answer is no, maybe 25%. At that time, they are still going to lose. And these guys have investment analysts. They will hire economists like us and some of the persons you invited to your studio to do the job for them. And we analyze, if you take this decision, this is what you have. So rather than us building our economy to be stable, that's not what we are doing. We are looking for quick fixes so that we can come out of the crisis and start having some inflows very quickly. Yes, that is important. The question is, what is fiscal and trade authorities, what are they doing about this? So I've told you the target and this what central bank is looking at in order to achieve some of these goals. But what are the challenges with it? I've told you the implication on growth. The second major implication is unemployment. You see, as we have increased the interest, as the interest rate has been increased, bank will be writing their customer to say, the money you borrowed when MPR was 18.75%, now that is has been increased of 400 basis points, there is that increase. And you can survey this among business people that borrow money from bank. If some bank have magnanimous and they don't do that, new persons that want to collect money from bank, they are going to increase the rate from what it was before. What does all of this mean? We have crowded out investment. And when you crowd out investment, you've also crowded out employment. So unemployment would increase. Someone may say, but unemployment just increased to 5%. No. The unemployment that increased to 5% is those who cannot get job 1 hour in a week. And I'm sure that is not what you desire. We are looking at 8 hours. I mean, we are looking at 40 hours a week. That's having 8 to 5 in terms of employment, or worst case scenario, 20 hours a week. And if you ask the Bureau of Statistics to share the numbers with you, I'm sure it may cause some deep concern within the current economic quagmire. It also has implications for markets. You know, the capital markets is celebrating growing in leaps and bounds. As government increases the debt market rate, that is treasury bill and bond, you have seen federal government bond, FGM bond, you have seen treasury bill also increasing. You have seen quite a number of debt market, that low risk market, increasing rate. It's going to cause disincentive to the capital market. There are a few other things which I think should have been thought through properly before the policies were made. What are the options? If I can answer the part B of your question, the options are there. Fix the fiscal side. Fix the fiscal side. The current inflation that we have in Nigeria is not demand pull, it is cost push. You have spoken about custom. The cost of custom, the custom is charging has an implication on prices. We also know that farmers are being killed. For those of us who also have the privilege to operate in agro-aligned, we can tell you that farmers are finding it difficult to also make some production and output for us to consume in our factories.
If I may come in there, it looks to me like, you know, the policies are well-intentioned, but they seem to also be counterproductive as well. Despite the use of all these economic terminologies, you know, well-intentioned to reduce inflation to 21%, increase portfolio investment. What Nigerians are really more concerned about is if in the overall it's going to reduce the price of a bag of rice from 75,000 naira to 35,000 naira, which was really high even when it was at that, you know, price. I'm glad you also mentioned subsidy when you were talking earlier, which has, you know, called for good reason to review. Since the removal of subsidy, what we've seen is an astronomical increase in the price of petrol, even when government was not adjusting it officially. What we have now is 650 naira per litre, and that's a moderate price in this part of the southwest. We've seen a palliative distribution program that has not really been effective. We've seen, you know, a payment of 25,000 naira to certain households that really, you know, we cannot verify. So my simple question to you is subsidy removal working?
subsidy removal is working for government because revenue government share at FAC has increased. When you see before subsidy was removed, government shared, and I mean the three tier of government, federal, state, and local, they shared between 400 billion naira to 600 billion naira before subsidy was removed. Upon the removal of subsidy, that jumped to about 1.1 trillion to 1.8, 1.9 trillion. That is humongous. That is huge amount. Monies that has been paid on behalf of Nigeria by three tiers of government is now going back to the government covers. Now, the thing is, the intention was that when this money goes to government, government will now spend this money majorly on capex. Recall that the budget of most of the states had been 70–80% recurrent expenditure. In fact, some states that they don't even have money to do anything other than to pay salaries. And the salary is not even up to minimum wage. And now, most states has more money. Federal government has more money. The question I ask is that, where is the capex upon this increase? It is not there. So government is not injecting into the economy. It is not impacting the economy. What do you see? Increase here and there. And this is why some of us warned very vehemently that before subsidy is removed, let there be steady production in Nigeria. Either government-owned refinery, privately owned refinery, they must work before you remove refinery. Before you remove the subsidy. As if those were not enough, haven't seen all the removal and some other policy, we now added devaluation to it. And I tell you, that would lead to constipation or what we call a policy overdose on the system. And this is why today, minimum wage is not sufficient. Even if you pay labor 60,000 naira, definitely it will not be sufficient. I'm not promoting paying 1 million naira to labor, but I can tell you that we still have a long way to go as a result of some of these policy. Another one has added to it now, an humongous 400 basis point increase in NPR. The more we take a reverse gear and reconsider the economy holistically, namely coming from fiscal, most importantly, trade, and with all the positive decision in recent time, central bank has taken before this 400 basis point increase and adjustment of CRR. I tell you, I think we need to have that discussion. They need to have that discussion among the real drivers of the economy.
Mr. Laji, I'm glad that you were categorical. You said that subsidy is working for government, not necessarily the people. So if it's working for government and not the people, who should we be asking about the savings on subsidy and why it's not profiting the people? Simply put, I'm asking you to rate this government on transparency. Where is the increase of savings on subsidy? Where is the monies paid to households, 25,000 naira per month over a period of 3 months? If indeed that's happening, shouldn't it have a trickle effect on the economy?
Well, the big question there is, shouldn't it have a trickle effect? We all know how money is shared because the FAC allocation is transparent already. We have access to it. It's all over the media. We can see it also online, how much has been shared by different tiers of government. What we don't have access to is the spending of this money by the 36 states and some parts of our federal government have shared. So it is now the report we have. But when you look at what has been spent and you go on ground to states to compare the two, I tell you that is a far cry. But let me also say this, just to play the devil's advocate. You see, when state government thought, oh, we now have more money, what they did not understand is that you are still going to go to the same market citizens of the country are going to. And guess what has happened in that market? Prices have increased. Contractors, local and foreign, coming to work with Nigeria, we also charge government more. So in the real sense, we have not done anything. We are just playing around prices. To build an economy, you must build a robust agro sector and manufacturing sector. That is when, even if you remove subsidy or not, you would have an economy whose trajectory is upward growth. Growth, progressive. So, but that is not what we have seen. So in spite of these nearly 500 billion naira adding to government covers or 1 trillion naira adding to government cover, the impact is still very minimal. It's not trickling down. People People are not benefiting from it yet the way they should. We have got 25,000. The question is, how many people can get 25,000 naira? How many families can get 25,000 naira? Compare even an average family that earns 50,000 naira or 40,000 or 60,000. If you have 25,000 today, what gap would that fit? Is it the price of, is it going to fill the gap of rice? Or is it transport? Or is it to fill the gap of cocoyam? Or is it to pay electricity companies, the discos, with the kind of increase that they have added to it? What exactly will the 25,000 naira do? These policies have been adopted. Similar policy was adopted in Indonesia, in China, and that is why I said those in authority should please take time to read literature. Because those who are promoting classical system, which Nigeria is going on, is adopting now, they fail to read some literature. The literature had already told us that there is limits to how you may want to turn your economy to a free market system. Free market system is not wrong, but it has its own limits. And we seem to be going beyond those limits right now because we seem to be happy with the sweetness of the economic conversation and expectation within the economy. Economy requires balance. I am by no means supporting a socialist system. No, it has no place. But economy must be balanced. The welfare of the people must be paramount.
All right, Mr. Alhaji, it looks like the very short-term measure is a bit counterproductive because they're looking at FX accretion so that we can bring in whether it's FPI mostly and maybe some bit of FDIs. They're looking at also using that policy to, as you said, to douse inflationary pressure. But the local economy is suffering because it's slowing growth because of high numbers that will have effect on cost of goods as well as drive unemployment. So it's a bit convoluted for people who are looking at that space. But let's bring it down to what Bukola has been saying and all of us have been saying, how prices will go down. Let's do a bit of geoeconomic mapping of the country because more monies are now being given to state government, which in itself will increase money supply if they spend it wrongly, if they don't spend it rightly. So let's do a bit of geoeconomics across the region. And I'm going to posit like two places, north, south, and maybe north central. For instance, Bayelsa State is not over 90% dependent on FACT. Benue State, for instance, most of their monies come from FACT and AIDS. IGR was barely about maybe 15 billion as at 2022. So some of these states are not viable when it comes to, they will go belly up without FACT. Now that they have more money, what can they be doing besides this ad hoc, short-term, knee-jerk, quick fix measure to really, really revive the economy at the local level? Because now let's leave the federal government and go to the states and the local government. I've used two states as an example.
Fantastic examples you gave. Benue State, fantastic example. Bayelsa State, fantastic. In fact, I may want to add Gombe State to it. But before I say that, I must also say that, you see, this conversation, this question you asked is perhaps the reason why central bank say there is excess money supply in the system. Because central bank have measured money that have been pumped into these states or money that have been pumped directly into overall economy. And it could trace that M1, M2, sorry for my technical term, money supply has increased. Now, what the central banks could not do or does not have capacity to do is to say that this money that has gone into the economy now being interpreted as increase in money supply, where are they? You now need to talk to fiscal, which is now government, or you need to talk to trade, which is the government, to find out where these monies are. And in the training of central bank, if there is excess money supply, what we'll do is that we're going to use different instruments, maybe open market operation, increase of NPR, raising CRR, liquidity ratio, which are the tools central bank is displaying. But there is a disconnect. That is why the goal of central bank will not be achieved. Because there is a disconnect. When you go to states that has now received the money, aka Benue State, Gombe State, and Bayelsa State, there is no plan. So how to invest the money in the system? And there are quite a number of things that could be done. We have talented individuals in those states. We have small-scale businesses in those states that I think government would have partnered with to say, if you can increase your output by 30%, 50%, government, through an agency of government, will support you with an XYZ amount. Rather, what you see is a road that does not require an overhead bridge. Government wants to build bridges. So there is an obsession that my administration has built a bridge and they want to name the bridge after themselves or their cronies. The question is that with a state that is languishing with hunger, poverty, and deprivation, if you put an overhead bridge where there is no traffic jam, the question is how much of impact have you had? Some states should focus on agriculture. That is where they have competitive advantage on. If you talk about states like Lagos with heavy traffic jam, then it's reasonable. But there are some states with, when you go there, you ask concern because without federal presence in those states, honestly, you wonder if they even have the presence of government in some places. So we have some states like Benue State who should be producing in mass and should attract, and I think this is what I would want to advise the governor. I know the governor is new, but how much of private investors can the governor attract? We have seen what has happened in Abia State. Can the state governor speak to his colleague? It may take 5 years, it may take 6 years, it may take 10 years. If what the private sector needs from Benue State is regular power supply, because of the abundance output of agro produce that comes out from Benue State, and some are wasted every year, such that we can attract factories coming to those states. Let us have both private and public investment in this state, but that's not what we have. But because of immunity now, there is little or no question that is asked from states. So instead of all of us speaking just to federal government, I think there is a big job, a big concern as to what most state governments are doing. And this state is not limited to the 3 in the example, at least 30 of them, because of their performances today. And I've said, if this is not done, unfortunately, which is not being done as we expect now, the pressure will continue to mount at the federal level. I don't know how many warehouses we have.
Pardon me, it's quite interesting how far we've come. And I know that debate will go on and on. How, a lot of people weren't talking about state governments, particularly when this government is coming to power. And I'm talking as far back as 2015. All of the blame was, federal government is at fault. But I think now we've come to that epiphany that it's not just the federal government, it's across board. We've seen what some states are doing. Again, the question is, how are people holding to account their state governments and local governments? And that's why it's essentially important to have this conversation. Hopefully people will take a lead from that. Abia state government just put up a committee for 35,000 naira minimum wage. I mean, Labour said 1 million, 35,000 naira. But some will say, at all, naim bad pass. But I'd like you to speak to us on what you expect the state governments to do this week. Not next week or before the end of the year, this week. We know that 42,000 metric tons of grains will be shared this week across the 36 states. The federal government announced that. But let us put the state governments, fine, let's put them under pressure. What do you expect them to do this week? So people listening can begin to ask their state government that this week, this has to happen at least for us to get some reprieve.
Quite a number of things. We've seen the president has released 42,000 metric tons, distribution of those so that we can reduce the ongoing, should I call it, breaking of factories, mostly that are owned by private sector, and bringing out food items that is moved from one state to another. There is little the state government can do this week, but there is a lot they can do in terms of communication and in terms of their plan as to how they will achieve that, maybe in the next 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months max, to be realistic. Here is it. What are the major concerns that we have? Money supply has increased to the hand of the states and local government. I put local government in inverted commas because they hardly exist. I travel a lot to states. I see the presence of federal, state government. I don't see the presence of local government in most cases. So what should we be doing? Number one is agriculture. Most states has competitive cost advantage over others in agriculture. From Irish potato, when you talk to Plateau State, to cashew nut, when you talk about Kogi State, and a number of other states, including cocoa, palm oil, some of the things that we consume, potato, all of them, rice, and so on and so forth. But what we don't have is that apart from the last Kebbi State governor and his government, that directly partner with federal government and the people for massive output in agro, in rice paddy. I can tell you that most other states folded their arms. And I tell you, as somebody who is a practitioner in that sector, I would want most states to announce what program they want to run. And I don't mean sharing money to anybody. In the next 2 months, we want to run XYZ program. They have fast land. If you check, kidnapping activity is happening in states. Even if they kidnap a person in one location, they will perhaps take the person to one state soil, one local government or the other. So those land that nothing is happening in those regions, can we convert them to farm? The land goes to the states. So if the state says we have 500 hectares of land, we have announced that it will be used for farming activity. Register young people, area boys, beyond area boys, people that have no job, graduates, non-graduates, that have no job to do, and this is what they want to do. And government must say that this is what has come to us as a result of increase in subsidy. We want to move all of this money into agro, or 50% into agro processing to end hunger. If churches and mosques are now saying that we don't want to build structures again, what we want to do is that we want the money to feed people, then the government should smell the coffee. What I think they should do now is 500 hectares of land should be dedicated and people should have them. When you do that in 6 months to 1 year, then private millers, private investors will come, foreigners will come. But if you want to use price adjustment to root them, they are wiser than that.
All right. Umar, thank you so much. Quite an insight on this particular issue. But it's an ongoing conversation. And as much as possible, we'll continue to bring you in an expert like you to give us perspective on this issue. Mr. Paul Alaje is a senior economist at SPM Professionals and fellow International Management Consultant Board in the U.S., also a fellow Institute of Economists here in Nigeria. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I will continue to say, so keep that conversation going in your local government as well as in your state government. Maybe what some of us here will do is to try and look for places where you can check exactly how much is coming to your local government. Some of you will be shocked. Well, if it actually gets to your local government, that's if the governors of those states allow you to get to your local government, because that's a debate. But we're not done with the economy. When we come back, we're going to talk about another aspect of the economy that has to do with the crypto space. Join us again.
Welcome back. Yet again, Binance is in the news. Just yesterday, a committee in the National Assembly threatened to issue warrant of arrest on Binance executives after it had extended invitations to them time and again. By the way, its own investigation began last year. But of late, we've seen what the federal government has been doing regarding Binance. CBN governor giving that expose that $26 billion had passed through Binance, and, you know, the sources unknown. And then the statement by the president's aide saying $10 billion compensation is being sought from Binance. But the big picture really is our FX, the market. How well is it faring today as a result of some of those, moves? Let's join someone who should know better on this conversation. We have on the program this morning, Obinna Iwuno, who's a president, stakeholders in Blockchain Technology Association of Nigeria. Siban, good morning, Obinna. Thank you for joining us on the Morning Brief.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for having me.
I know for a lot of you, will I say practitioners or experts in the field, you took a step back just to watch how things would unfold, to see, okay, how are things going with the federal government, with Binance and other crypto platforms. And I imagine it's enough time for you to have formed an opinion about all of the things the federal government has been doing of late. Add to that what the National Assembly Committee is also doing. So, what are your thoughts now? Some say, well, you're just trying to give Binance, give a dog a bad name just to hang it. Some other people say this is the way forward. We need to protect the nation's economy by all means, even if it means shutting down or regulating some of these platforms. Your thoughts, Obinna?
All right. So what you said, giving a dog a bad name to hang it, and also protecting the economy by all means, they are factually correct, but not the best course of action. Why I say that is this. The government has the responsibility to do everything possible to make sure that the economy is protected and that there are no breaches in security, especially when it has to do with the national interest. No government would allow you to just come in and exploit its economy and, controlling the reins of its economy. While that is a fact, we must also understand how economy functions. Now, if the government suspects that there is a threat to the economy due to the activity of a certain individual or entity, it is the government's responsibility to take a hold of the situation and control it. And if there is a threat to the security of the country, it is also the responsibility of the government to handle it. Now, looking at the case of Binance, virtual assets activities may provide a risk, but the question is there a risk that has been recorded? We must understand what we are dealing with. Binance offers products which are cryptocurrency, and many people do not really understand what cryptocurrency is really. Now, cryptocurrency is a unit of a sector known as digital assets and blockchain technology. Cryptocurrency can also be known as digital currency. In fact, that is its classification as a unit under digital assets. There are other forms of digital assets, and the digital assets is just one sector of blockchain technology. And this is the technology that Nigeria has become the first country in Africa to have a roadmap and a policy on. We are the only country in Africa that has a national blockchain policy. If this technology was not important, the government wouldn't have made such a move. And also, this blockchain policy took us over 2 years to work on in collaboration with the government. We started this work in 2020, and then the national blockchain policy was ready in 2023 and was signed by the former president, Muhammad Buhari, and it was launched, and then a committee was inaugurated to steer it nationally. That's the National Steering Committee, of which CBAN, the Blockchain Association, is a member of that committee, alongside other 28 members, including the CBN, the NSA, the SEC, Federal Ministries of Communication, Budgeting, and a lot of other parastatals, and including the law enforcement. Now, when we see this, one of the things that we need to understand is that cryptocurrency is this popular because it was the first implementation of blockchain technology. And so much attention has been drawn towards it. It was primarily responsible for leading adoption. Right. But it is not all that can be done. The best course of action to be followed in this case of Binance, where we have issues of rate speculation or rate jacking on the platform, is for proper regulation. All right. Because those things are possible when there is no regulation and these people do not have to answer to anybody.
All right, Mr. Obeha, either it's blockchain, technology, crypto, or Binance, the point is that it's a popular platform, and investors, practitioners in that field, those fields, they're making money. So when government comes after those practitioners, they should look inwards. And some of the allegations leveled against, the executives, they're quite weighty, and I'd like you to, take a look at some of them. Listen to this. Aside from suspicions of economic sabotage, government officials also speak of national security concerns on the platforms, as they're often patronized by criminal groups, including for payment of ransom. So if these activities abound on those platforms, what, in your opinion, are the loopholes or the less than standard activities going on that makes the platform susceptible to such activities?
First of all is for us to really understand how these platforms work and function. There is a KYC system which every platform implements, all right? And I am also aware that there is a KYC on Binance. That means before you could even have an account to trade or perform any activity on Binance, you must have done your KYC. That means every single person who had used Binance or is using Binance is known. So that is one step. The other part also is the fact that these transactions on Binance are on the blockchain. And many people have been wrongly informed about blockchain technology. I hear so many talks of, it is anonymous. No, it is not anonymous. What it does is that it gives you privacy protection, not anonymity. They are two different things. You are using the platform, you are known. Your identity is known. You are not an anonymous being. What it means is that the whole world does not have access to your private information and transactions. But anybody, when the law enforcement or government needs it, they can get it from Binance. We have solved different cases of fraud, scam involving the Interpol, EFCC, with different international police organizations from different countries. So money flowed into Binance. The identity of the owner will be revealed. So traceability is one of the most important components of blockchain technology that people are not yet aware of because of the low level of education and information that people have about these things.
So, Mr. Obeha,
so there is no anonymity.
So, Mr. Obinna, by what you're saying, are you faulting the CBN governor's position that $29 billion that moved through Binance cannot be traced?
I am not faulting the CBN governor's position because I do not have access to the trades that happen on Binance. But there is tools available that can be used to trace all of these things. Right. And Binance cannot claim not to have access to information and transactions that has happened on its platform and who they went to. That is the point that I am trying to make. That all of these things can be verified and they are all traceable.
So speak to us about this KYC further. I think majority of Nigerians always find this conversation around cryptocurrency tricky because a lot of them don't play in that space. So it's majority of young people, people who are tech savvy, people who are looking to invest, or looking for investment opportunities that are really in this space. And that is not a majority, that's a minority. So speak to us about the KYC. What are the levels of the KYC? So how much does Binance know about the users or people who do business on it? Is it the name? Do they have the address? BVN. Do they have BVN and all of those? Is that something that is required to register on Binance? That's on the one hand. On the other hand is, how much of this does government have? Because it appears as though government doesn't have all of that information. So is Binance sharing all of that information from time to time, particularly when there's a need for it and when there is a legitimate need for it? It's important to state, these points when there's a legitimate need for it. So speak to us about that, because for a lot of people, they don't even understand it. Some even think it is evil altogether. So yes, close it entirely. No more Binance or any of those crypto apps. So it's important to educate people about that.
Okay. Okay, so KYC, I will start from my own constituency, which is CBAN, where I am the president of the industry. We have a KYC-based system for admitting you as a member. You are not trading. We are not a trading platform. We are not selling any products or offering you any financial services. All right? We are the self-regulatory organization in the industry. But before you even join us as a member, you must have to perform KYC. We must know you. And acceptable documents for KYC by us is either your passport, your driver's license, your permanent voter's card. These are documents that our government has access to the data. In fact, these are documents that are issued by our government. Therefore, our government has access to your information in their database. So we cannot go far to look for you. Secondly, we have a code of conduct for virtual asset service providers, which is binding on members and non-members. After your KYC, you must have to sign that virtual asset service provider's code of conduct before you are admitted as a member of CBAN. Why do we do so? Because there is no regulation for the industry, and we know that there are entities that offer businesses in this sector. We do not want them to offer businesses or operate with their own ideology. We want them to operate on the best global standard of ethical and professional practices in the industry. And we collected this code of conduct from other countries. And
I understand, Obina, I understand. I'm saying for Binance and for other crypto platforms.
I will get to Binance.
What is the level? Because I don't think government has an issue with CBAN. If anything, I imagine that government is working with you. By the way, you can tell us how much of an improvement or how much of a progress has been made with the interface with Binance, that's with the federal government. I know the House, the National Assembly has its own, but you can speak to us about that. But I'm talking about the crypto platforms. How much of KYC is available and shareable with government?
Several KYC measures they use. One is the BVN. All right. Most of these crypto platforms use the BVN for KYC. And then acceptable documents for KYC is the passport, the NIN, the driver's license, and the permanent voter's card. And that is not where they stop with the KYC. After submitting these details, if it's your BVN that you submitted for KYC and your BVN is verified, of course, we know that there is no way they can verify the BVN if they are not connected to the government, right? Verification platforms. So after your BVN is verified, then you have to do a facial identity verification. And this facial identity verification is done using AI tools on the platform. In fact, the facial identity verification works for two purposes. One, to identify that you are really the person in the document that you submitted. Secondly, also to verify that you are really a human and not a bot. Because apart from taking your pictures, which the software would have to run with the documents you submitted to confirm a match with both information, you are also asked to perform certain movements as a human. If you're a robot, you can't perform those movements.
So doesn't that contradict, Obina, doesn't that contradict what the CBN governor said about the $26 billion that passed through Binance from unidentified sources? Those were the words. So isn't that contradictory if you say the clients or the users are identified and you've talked about these levels of identification? The CBN governor says $26 billion, a lot of them unidentified. I mean, it's not adding up, Obina.
Okay, so the CBN governor said 26 billion is unidentified. But what they have not told us is how they arrived at the 26 billion. You know, because that is the only basis that I would either fault or right the CBN governor. Like I have said, I am a trained cryptocurrency investigator, a certified cryptocurrency investigator, and I am also a certified cryptocurrency compliance specialist. And I can tell you that these things are traceable.
So can you tell us
what would perform a transaction?
Mr. Obinna, can you tell us what would be a more
transaction on any platform as long as it passes through the blockchain that it cannot be traced? And if you use a centralized exchange like Binance, it is finished, because you cannot be on those platforms without your identity being known.
So, Mr. Obinna,
can you offer service to you if they don't know who you are? Pardon
me. So, can you tell us what would be a more realistic figure that has passed through Binance if you fault $26 billion?
Like I said, I did not fault $26 billion. I made it very clear that they have not told us how they arrived at that figure. That is the only point where I would either fault or write the statement. Secondly, I can't tell you what has passed on Binance because, one, I do not work with Binance. I do not have access to Binance records. And the reason is very simple. Binance is not licensed to operate in Nigeria. Nigeria did not regulate virtual asset services and the providers. And this is what we have been calling for years.
Right.
And because of that, there is no legislation that makes them binding to us. If there was regulation in the country, first of all, Binance would be a member of CBAN. And then we can ask Binance for information, and they have the obligation to give us those information. Why? Because they are operating as a recognized entity in this country.
Okay.
That is the reason.
We have to run now. Clearly, this is not the end of the conversation, but I'm curious quickly. So are you in support of that $10 billion compensation, which the federal government is seeking from Binance, and what the House of the National Assembly is doing with its committee investigating Binance for those allegations? Do you support that?
If there has been clear evidence of wrongdoing, then the government is in its rights to fine.
All right.
Now, the amount being fined is a different thing, but fining the defaulter is a responsibility of government. Now, the only thing that we are asking is that whatever is happening in this process, we are against bad actors. We do not support bad actors. That's why we put these measures. We have formed several committees to fight crypto scam. We have educated several agencies of government. We've conducted trainings for the EFCC as far back as 2021.
Interesting.
So we are totally against bad actors. All right. So what we want to do is we have to be careful how we handle this matter so that it does not affect our international image and also do not scare investors from coming into this sector, because other countries are innovating and expanding in this sector. We should also take advantage of the opportunity, and that's why we
have to run now. Right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for those points you made. I mean, we've seen the president seeking investments in Qatar of late and other countries, so it's important to harmonize these measures. Obinna Uno, who is the president of CBAN, Stakeholders in Blockchain Technology Association of Nigeria, thank you so much for your time on the Morning Brief.
Thank you.
As objective as it can get, Kadi.
Well, I know a lot of young people are concerned about this. Maybe you have your assets right there. Not to worry, we'll continue with this conversation in the coming days. But we'll go to break now, and when we return, we'll turn our attention to Nollywood. We have one of the, I don't want to say big fish, because that term has been used a lot, but we have one of the big names. You'd love to see her on your screen. Guess what? She's right here in the studio with us. Stay with us. It's a Morning Brief.
Welcome back right here on the Morning Brief. Of course, so we bring the people that are shining the light in the industry that has actually amplified our image and is repositioning us as much as possible. They built it, I always say, from ground zero, and now everyone is associating with our industry. I'm talking about Nollywood, one of the biggest industries as far as movie making is concerned in the world. And we have one of the very shining lights of that industry right here, and she's literally shining, looking beautiful. And the one and only Adunni, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm sure this is your first time on the Morning Brief.
This show? I believe so.
Yeah, okay. I wanted to be sure whether there's another Morning Brief you've attended.
No, this show, but I have been to your stations probably 2-3 times, yes.
All right, welcome to the show. So let's begin from, we like to begin from the very basics of, you are one of the recognizable faces. So when we have recognizable faces, we try to positive to say, okay, at what point did this person come into this space? So that for younger audience like netizens who, of course, love this space as much as possible, will begin to take a cue as to how to map their journey and some lessons to learn from people like you. So let's start from how you came into Nollywood to where you are.
I moved back here in 2011, and I started off with skit making. But prior to that, I was an international model in America. That's how I started my career. And then I got into this entertainment space with skits. I would just record skits, put it up on Facebook, put it up on YouTube, and I got discovered that way. So I would always fly back and forth from the state to Nigeria to shoot or to partake in any film at that moment. But I had a great conversation with Ramsey Noah, someone that I have a huge respect for his craft, for his being. And he pretty much told me, if you want to make it big, you got to be in people's faces. You have to come to Nigeria. So myself and my kids bonded up and we moved here. And it's been a journey so far.
So what was that big, when you moved in, I know you say you were going back and forth. When you now moved in, because there's always a point, they say in Nigeria we use the word blow. What was that movie that you could say, okay, I can trace my blow?
I would say my skit,
really?
Dates Gone Bad. That was the skit that I did. I produced that myself. I went on a date with a Nigerian man. He had no idea that I spoke Yoruba. He took a phone call, you know, he's saying all these nasty things and what he's gonna do and not do. And when he gets off the phone, you know, he's letting me know that it's an important meeting and, you know, all these crazy things. And, you know, my head just goes off the roof and I just went ham on him in Yoruba. So that blew me out there. And then everything else is complimentary.
Interesting. You're looking good, by the way.
Thank you.
I had cause to watch some of your videos where you talked about your being mixed breed, and you know that made me want to ask, as part of my next question, is the hair, is it all of yours or?
It is mine.
Everything?
It is.
Is there additional?
Well, there are tape-ins in there. I paid for them, so it is
mine. All yours?
Yes. So my natural hair, they're 20 inches long, and then the tape-ins are 24. I'm not sure if you understand what
I don't. We'll just sit this one out.
Yeah. They don't understand, but I understand.
Yeah, so.
Okay, so how much of being mixed breed affects your getting roles, you know, particularly if you, in your decision to go into mainstream Nollywood, where they really want to cast, you know, a traditional, a black person for traditional roles? How much of that has affected?
So I have said this quite a few times, and whenever I say this, it's not about me being negative or, you know, trying to, you know, put the film industry in a negative light, but you really have to be sincere if you want to talk about, you know, filmmaking. Scripts are not written for people who look like me, because typically here in Nigeria, we're all black. Now, the skin tone is another thing. Yes, a lot of females or even males would like to be light-skinned, you know, maybe add 1 or 2 things to their skin to look lighter.
Like you.
But being light-skinned and having this color is two different things. So they can still pass and still get roles easier than I would. I'm more on the white side. Now, being light-skinned and being more on the white side is two different things. And because I wasn't getting the roles that I really wanted to partake in, it pushed me, it kind of forced me into filmmaking. And one of the core things that I said I would never do is to cast someone based off of their color. Everybody, anybody, as long as you're human, you would always have a chance on my set, having a role, as long as you can interpret the character the best way possible. I'm willing to give you a shot.
Well, you do a good job of interpreting your roles.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Perhaps you want to tell us where exactly, your mixed breed is from.
My mom is German and Irish, and my dad is Lagosian, Badagry.
Interesting. It's I've read your story, and there's a lot into who you are right now. There's a lot that is put into it, your experiences, how you fought through tough times, and it's good to see what you're doing.
Oh, thank you.
To bring people, because they will say you're too white to be black and too black to be white, but I'm glad you're not letting that hold you back.
At all.
A lot of people would always love to hear you speak Yoruba. I think that's one
draining.
of your superpowers. They just come and say, speak Yoruba for us. And
it is draining.
It is, right?
Sometimes it irks my nerves, because I'm like, the first language that we know in Nigeria is English.
Right.
Let's put all the other languages aside. And some are even rude with it. And speak Yoruba, Joe. So Yoruba, I'm like, no.
I know. So I think for some of them, they just want to, they think I imagine they'll feel better if they hear you speak Yoruba.
I really don't know what it is.
So maybe
I don't know
just
how
forgive them to just see you as...
No, I don't see how that would make them feel better. Yeah. Maybe they just want to hear me speak Yoruba. A lot of times I get, you really don't look like what you sound like. When I hear someone speaking Yoruba, I don't envision someone like you. I'm like, okay, well, I got best of both worlds. I do appreciate the fact that my father brought me here, and I'm able to learn the Nigerian culture, the Nigerian language, and everything Nigerian. The flip side is, it seems like they want to claim me when it's beneficial.
So you see now, we're scouting. But we'll drain you further. We'll just watch you do your thing in Yoruba. I know you're working on some big stuff. There's a streaming platform war, Netflix, Prime, and then YouTube comes into the mix. It looks like you're playing a major role in that. But let's watch you. Okay, you don't have to speak Yoruba here, but what you speak Yoruba.
But you speak later on anyway.
And do your craft, and they'll come back to have more of this conversation.
Bí mo ṣe lọ fún second business wa. Ta ló wà ní ẹ̀? Mo fọ aṣọ láàárọ̀ yìí. Mo dẹ̀ débẹ̀ sí mo rí. Aṣọ yín mọ́.
Èmi tí wàá rò ó pé ká pa iṣẹ́ yìí tì sẹ́gbẹ̀ẹ́ ló wá ṣe mí fún wa.
Torí Karo òun àtìyàwó English mo fi pè pàdé yìí o. Torí pé kí ni? Wọ́n jẹ́ owó lé ní o. Wọ́n ti ṣọ́lẹ̀ fún wa.
Ṣọgbà ẹ̀, opportunity ló délẹ̀ yìí o. Ṣẹ̀jẹ̀ ibi iṣẹ́ tá à ń sọ yìí, olówó ló gidigidi.
Mo láìka ètò mu wa.
Really? Ẹ gbà mí. Ọ̀gá, jẹ́jẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀.
Jọ ìgbà wo ló ń bọ̀ nílé gan-an? Ìtò pè mí délé yẹn, ìyàwó mi ni mo wà lọ́bẹ̀.
Kí ló ṣẹlẹ̀ sí gangan ni kẹ́ ẹ sọ fún mi?
So talk to us about this work. You've spoken Yoruba in it.
Yes.
And tell us, what is this about? What are you hoping to achieve?
This is the first film that I just recently dropped on my YouTube channel. I actually shot this for a bigger platform, and it sort of did not work out, not because of my doing or my fault, internal issues, and I did not want to wait much longer, and I was like, you know what, I'll just put it up on my YouTube channel and we'll go from there. Yorubas will say Onokon Waja. I'm not sure if any of you guys are Yoruba.
No,
so every...
Two of them.
Oh, two of them, okay.
Do you want to interpret that for them as well?
How would I say that in English? Okay, pretty much. It's not one way to success or one way to, achieving greatness. There are different ways that you can, earn a living, and YouTube is quite big. I don't know why. I'm someone who takes her time. I process it, and my processing time might be a year, 2 years. I should have been doing this a long time ago, putting it on YouTube, but I don't know. I wanted to try something else, but now, look, the big platform comes, we're going there. YouTube, we are there. So I have a bunch of films that I shot a few years ago, and now is the time to drop them one after the other. It's not just in Yoruba. I just like to infuse everything. I like to cut across all genres and be relatable with the people in general. So English, Yoruba, whatever, I'm there.
So let's go back to a challenge you chose to resolve your way, and see what advice you can give to the industry in accommodating people with your skin color. Because I guess you were tired of maybe people trying to push you to be maybe an expatriate, maybe looking for a parent for you could be difficult, or looking for a child for you could be difficult, and all of these elements. Now, but decided to say, okay, if you want to box me, I will unbox myself.
Of course.
And I decided to do all of this. So, but we still need people like you in that space. What are they looking at that they should be looking away from, and what should they be focusing on talking to producers and directors?
Well, I think, gosh, I already said I'm not in the, should I say, mood to be giving advices anymore, because it seems like my advice are always very tough, or it's always taken the wrong way. But I would just say be more open and be more evolved. Life is not constant. Everything keeps changing, and back then, now, in the future, there are going to be people who look like me, and who would be referred to as Nigerians. Probably even having both parents fully Nigerian and still maybe end up coming out my color. To give everyone a chance, give everyone the chance to show their craft, and just let everybody grow.
The other issue is being a woman in any industry can become very challenging. And in Nollywood, for instance, I'm sure it's quite challenging. And being looking quite attractive is another kettle of fish on its own. So I'm saying this so that I know you're tired of advising, but this advice, you need to do it because it's for the young girls. Because we've heard of casting couch, and I'm sure you know what that means.
What is it?
Casting couch.
Casting couch. Could you
it's a bit derogatory, more like, you need to, more like a sexual assault kind of situation where some people want to have their way with you before they give you roles and all of that. So it's kind of casting. Yeah, all of
regardless
that.
of the industry.
My straight question is, looking this beautiful, looking attractive, how did you navigate all of that? So say, look,
you got to be focused. You have to have that drive. You have to be determined. You have to know where you're going. When you know where you're going, when you're staying focused, and all these side distractions rather, are not going to phase you, you will get to where you're going. Has it ever happened to me? Maybe once in my whole time of being in Nigeria. And I set that individual straight, and I never got to work with the person. It's fine, but at least you know not to cross that path with me. If you stand your ground and you know yourself, it can come, but you have to know how to respond to that. You don't have to be nasty. You don't have to fight. But you know how to address that, and just be yourself. I always say one thing: never. How do I say it? My head is really, really blank this morning. But
you're doing well, by the way.
Thank you. I would say never bring down your standards to fit someone else's lifestyle. Know who you are and stay in your path, in your journey, and the best is yet to come.
And I imagine that, many female thespians are doing a good job, standing their grounds with the success stories that they're recording. One of them being yours. Let's talk about some of your other executive produced works. We're seeing one of them on the screen just shortly, which is Soleh. I've seen that, and that's an amazing production, by the way. From your own perspective, we've had this conversation before, with other colleagues of yours in the industry, about shooting space and, the pressure and the demands for payment, from what we call quote-unquote area boys on the streets of Lagos, perhaps other locations. How are you navigating those challenges? And perhaps from the association level, maybe Actors Guild of Nigeria, if you are a member of other associations, how are you dealing with it such that you can have a safe space for the industry to thrive?
Well, how am I dealing with it? Just like everybody else, I know how to how would I put this? I know how to relate with anyone that I come in contact with. I don't care who you are, high, mighty, the street, and I like to relate with the street. So the energy you give is what you receive from me. Did I go through that during filming of Soleh? Heck yeah. I mean, it was bad. It was bad when the guy came up there and pretty much demanded, like he was the boss of that place, and we had already even sorted him out. We already did.
And you sorted him out?
Yeah, during the film. Yeah. So we had to pay because a lot of the shoot was done on the road. So I had to pay for security, and with the security, the police escorts that I had, I still had to pay. And one of those days, it went there. It went there, and I wasn't having it. What can be done? I really don't know, because the next thing I say might be taken out of context. So I'd rather not say, but I would just say, just do what you got to do. I really don't want to say nothing.
I noticed during the course of this conversation, you had to, maybe you think there are landmines ahead of you, so you're trying to avoid the landmines.
No,
but
there's no landmines. I'm really someone who minds her business, and but one thing I don't like is for people to be treated otherwise. I'm someone who I like to stand for the truth and just stay right there. And when I see you doing otherwise to me, to anyone else around me, it gets to me. I just feel like people should live their truth and just be good. Just be good to your neighbors, to your friends, to your family, to whoever. And that's not really what we see in this world. I wouldn't say in Nigeria, anywhere in the world, Humans are humans.
Because people will always talk, but what matters is you being you and doing the right things.
And that's always been who I am.
It's good to hear you say you are street, because
well, let me say,
you don't look like a typical street, but I've seen your skits. So you have a way to shock people, and they're like, oh, I didn't see this coming. Let me respect myself. A lot of people want to know which you prefer, the English movies or the Yoruba movies. Some of your fans actually sent this in for us to ask you that do you prefer the so-called English movies or the so-called Yoruba movies? I know that Nollywood is trying to, blur those lines now. Just put out a production. In fact, you have all of the languages, but for you, which do you prefer?
Do I prefer? Yeah. I prefer whoever pays me more.
Word.
Your money speaks.
There you go. So in case you're listening, that is what matters. But also speak to us about this, women power or woman power in Nollywood. So women are actually doing amazing things in Nollywood. First, do you consider yourself one of those, powerhouses in Nollywood?
I don't give myself credit for anything. I just sleep, wake up, and ready to work. I let people do that judging, but whoever I come across or come in contact with, I want to make sure that I leave you with some sort of impact positively that you could use for donkey years. I don't really pay attention to what I have done. I'm just me, easy breezy, just me. But kudos to those who are, empowering women, men, children, whoever. I'm more on the laid-back side, and I really do not like to put anything that I do out there. That's between me and my creator.
So let's bring it back down to what is going on in our country. The economy is not smiling, and I guess that an industry like yours, where there's been a lot of advocacy in terms of people like you who are producers getting, maybe loans and credit and all of that. We've seen movies. I think it was Cleopatra, one of those movies. $200 million gone down the drain. Didn't make the money, and so getting money to fund a very volatile space where it can go either way can be quite difficult. So how are you coping with this economy as a filmmaker in running your project? Because it's biting everybody. I don't know whether it's getting to you or you're insulated, maybe. We don't know. I know you say you're easy breezy.
I live within my means. I don't overdo things. I take it one step at a time.
So
that's all I gotta say. When I say I don't want to say anything, I mean that.
Do you think people have been unfair to you, really?
We're curious to know.
It's
like you're holding back a lot.
I'm not holding back anything.
So where you hold, or we perceive, it's a perception, wrong or right. Okay? So is there anything that has happened in the past that felt, did you say anything that got you slack or something? That made you to say, okay, when I go on TV or go to these channels, or
just love and light.
Let's just love and light. Let's just leave this thing to go.
Wait, you're a full Nigerian, right?
I am full Nigerian.
Were you here last year?
I've been here 43 years.
Good.
Something else is coming, I believe.
If you were in Nigeria last year, then you would understand. Everything I did came out of, it was all love. And I know what I went through, so I already said, Adunni, mind your business moving forward. I wish everyone well and all the best. But, saying anything otherwise, not for me.
For those who are not on social media, they're just on WhatsApp.
That's belief. Everybody knows.
What happened last year?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. But we're all Nigerians, and every government, people go through things, and I can only hope it gets better. That's the only thing I can
maybe
say.
I won't preempt you. I don't know whether you're talking about the 2023 general elections and what came out of it. Maybe that, Bukola.
Well, I'd like to know what happened last year, and it brings me back to the management of the challenges that you seem unwilling to talk about. How are they being dealt with at the association level? Do you collaborate with your colleagues at the association level? I know there is NANTAP, there is Actors Guild of Nigeria. So perhaps you'd like to speak to us about some of these challenges.
What challenges are you referring to?
Jeffrey was talking about the economy. It's biting hard on everyone, and I believe in Nollywood as well, especially for you as an executive producer. Mm-hmm. So
I'm actually filming at the moment. Okay. That was why I said I live within my means. I'm not going to overdo it. If I cannot do something, I'm not going to nibble and dabble into it. And I said it on a different show segment. Let's just pay people a little bit better. I think that's all I can add to whatever it is I have said.
So I've heard you speak. Just one more.
Yoruba. Okay.
No, not Yoruba. We heard you speak, but we want to see your work. So what are the things out there that people can see,
what you're working on?
Watch, and then perhaps what you're working on as well?
What I'm working on, I can't speak about it right now. I do have a water delay, which means idle hand on my YouTube channel. I have more coming out in the months to come. I do have a project that is coming on a big streaming platform. It's FRK from Layo Ransom Kuti, and that was produced by Bolanle Austin Peters. It's going to be airing, I think, April 5th, and the premiere will be April 3rd. And then other things I cannot speak upon just yet, but there's so many things to come, and I'm pretty sure your station will probably be one of the first to know or hear about it when it's out.
That would be quite a pleasure. Thank you so much.
You haven't spoken Yoruba yet.
Maybe give us a bit of that street thing. How did you handle that street thing?
No, my brother, no. Not yet. I'm a bank. No,
Let me grab the glass.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm a lover, not a fighter. I just like, I'm very stern. Let me just put it that way. I'm more on the discipline side.
Absolutely. Adunni, thank you so much for coming on the program. Absolutely a pleasure. And when you're ready to speak, we're going to bring you again. You're going to speak. Don't worry, we'll make you speak. It's our job.
Tell anyone.
It's our job to make people speak. That's
probably not to tell anyone. Don't worry, there's nobody listening right now.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you so much, Adunni. Nollywood superstar coming to share with us your journey as well as what you're working on. We really appreciate your coming. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to be it for today. Kayode, Bukola. Okay, I wanted to be sure what I was looking at.
I haven't run away yet.
Yeah, no, I haven't run away yet. So it's going to be an amazing one tomorrow. Tomorrow is the midweek edition of the show. We're not going to let you know what we have for you, but trust, it's going to be a big one. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Jeffrey Usama.
Join us again tomorrow. I'm Bukola Coca.
And just like I did today, let's mind our businesses. Drink water too, it's important.
Easy breezy.
And let's be good to each other. Absolutely. Have a great day. I'm Kayode. Bye-bye.